All right. We're back. News out this morning is that 92 million Americans, I'm rounding up by 400 and some odd thousand, which is barely a blip in the overall screen. 91 million Americans are out of the labor force. 91.6 to be precise. Now, for the record, guys, let's understand something. The total U.S. workforce is only 143 million. 143 million people is the total U.S. workforce. Those who are not in the labor workforce, and I want you to go to usdebtclock.org if you're watching this streaming live, because the numbers here are empirical, they're irrefutable, and they give you a clear and present picture of exactly how desperately, dangerously overbalanced we are. The U.S. debt clock right now reflects our debt as $17.14 trillion. $17.14 trillion. For the record, $400 billion of that was borrowed in the first 48 hours after the debt debacle was resolved a month ago. $400 billion in 48 hours. Where did it all come from? The Federal Reserve. You know why? Because nobody in the world right now, no investor groups, no central banks, no other international or nation states are stupid enough to buy U.S. bonds, U.S. Treasuries. Right now, U.S. Treasuries, while they are touted as being the most secure money on earth based on the full faith and credit of the United States of America, they are being looked at by the international investing community and foreign nations who normally buy our debt as a hedge, like the vampire cross. Our population is 317 million. Out of that, 1/3 or 114 million are taxpayers. So we've got 114 million people who are basically the taxpayers covering 317 million. Just about a third. Now, or just a little over a third. The U.S. workforce is 143 million, and this number is the total non-farm labor force employment. Okay? So if you add farm workers in there, you might bounce it up, to 150 million. The people that are not in the labor force, and this is defined on U.S. debt clock as persons who are neither employed nor unemployed, are not in the labor force. This category does include retired persons, students, those taking care of children or other family members, and others who are neither working nor seeking work. That number on debt clock is 91.647 million. Now, the numbers that are out in reference to the numbers for where the heck was it now? I just lost my story. Here we go. 91.5 million did not participate in October. Now, this is data directly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that quotes numbers a little differently than debtclock.org. They're saying that last month alone, 932,000, almost 1 million more people, fell off the labor wheel. That brings it from a total of 90.6 million to 91.5 million. They define it a little differently. Here's the way the Bureau of Labor Statistics defines a person not in the labor force. Age 16 or older, who are not employed and not considered to be unemployed, as they have not looked for work in 4 weeks prior to this survey that they take. That's how they determine it. The labor force of all people who are both employed and unemployed, in accordance with this decline, hit a record low of 62.8%. So in other words, 62.8% of the potential workforce is working. The rest are sitting home. You know, since January 29, 2009, when Obama took office, until this month, October, over 11 million people have dropped out of the labor force permanently. 11 million. Now, what that ought to tell you, folks, is that the true nature of where we are right now is that our labor force is being decimated. That means that there's a whole lot less taxpayers. That's where the numbers are for everybody's on food stamps, applying for disability, and all of these other projects that or campaigns that are stripping those few remaining 62% who are working of their wealth. I mean, you're getting it from both sides. There's less people paying into the system and more people taking out of the system. It's a double-edged sword that is not capable of cutting both ways. It actually is cutting both ways. The actual unemployment number on Debt Clock is 21.47. The government says the official unemployment number is 11.2, but 2 million. But when you look at the total number of people who have fallen out of the workplace and either have decided to quit looking for work or have taken on some kind of side job that they're not telling anybody about because they can't afford to pay taxes because they're cutting grass or chopping firewood for a living, the real number is almost 22 million. What that tells us, folks, is that our nation is being decimated from the inside. SSI, the total number of disabled, is up at 14 million people. Did you know that when Obama took office, it was like 8 million? It's almost doubled. Those who are living in poverty, 47 million Americans out of 317 million. And by the way, that self-same number of 47 million, they're all getting food stamps. 47 million people are getting food stamps. It's costing us, untold billions of dollars. And there's less people all the time paying into the workforce. The tax rolls. Less and less and less people are working. Therefore, the government's collecting less taxes. Not to mention the fact that almost all the jobs, 90% of all the jobs that have been created since Obama took office, have either been part-time or low-paying jobs. 90%. Do the math, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting squeezed by government regulation. I read an article yesterday that the number of people who have been hired by corporations to be in charge of regulatory oversight for those companies in order to make sure that essentially they're aligning themselves with the regulatory rules that are gushing out of Washington like a fire hose has gone up 120%. So the only people companies are actually hiring anymore, apparently, are those people who regulate to make sure that the government's mandates are being followed. And everybody else is being knocked down to part-time status so that they can get underneath the radar gun of Obamacare. The real signature achievement of this president is not Obamacare. The real signature achievement of this president is the complete and utter desolation of the U.S. workforce. This is classic Cloward and Piven strategy. Their concept, their arguments, their goals, their ideals were simply this: create such a glut of people who are dependent upon the government that you break the system just from the overwhelming weight. Now look at the perspective of what's gone down in the last 5 years with that strategy and that goal in mind. This is the number one signature achievement of President Barack Hussein Insane Obama. His goal is to destroy the United States from the inside out. That's why he got into government. To overwhelm the system with people on entitlement programs, SSI, disability, unemployment, health care, Medicaid. They are pushing people onto the Medicaid rolls through Obamacare at an astounding rate. Every state is going to have to expand its Medicaid rolls. And these are all unfunded mandates. Nobody knows how they're going to pay for it. They've raised the income that you can have and still fall into the poverty zone. So now it's annexing more people into this new, under Medicaid, it's annexing more people into the Medicaid rolls than ordinarily would qualify. By redefining what constitutes poverty, they are artificially jacking the numbers up, and they're going to put such enormous pressure on the capabilities of the taxpayers and the amount of actual money we have that their goal will be achievable. Destruction of the United States economy. You know why? Because we are the one stumbling block, the one massive speed bump nobody can get by in the world in order to achieve globalization, true globalization. Look, you got to look at this in the bigger perspective. You got to step back from this, get up at the 5,000-foot marker, and look back at the entire forest. The United States and our demand for respect of our national sovereignty has been the stumbling block to tyrants globally in terms of being able to turn the United States into just another country out there participating in the global demise into slavery and subjugation. The best way that this nation can achieve that is to overwhelm the system, break its back, destroy the economy, and force the United States of America to capitulate like every other nation has done, under economic pressure. And once that is achieved, the pillars of freedom and liberty that have been holding up the roof over the planet, the one shining example that every other person who in every other nation who seeks freedom and liberty, the one example that they can look at and say, I want to emulate that, will be gone from history. That's the plan. If you do these numbers, folks, 1/6 of the nation is already on food stamps. 1/6 of the nation is living in poverty. For the record, the debt that you currently owe per citizen is $333,400. So if you take that number, if you understand the depth of that, recognize that it doesn't matter whether you're a taxpayer or not. Every citizen, including the unemployed, including the disabled, including the child, including the grandparent, including those people who are retired, every one of us is responsible for $333,376 right now. And that is, in addition, that's the long-term. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm sorry, I gave you those numbers inaccurately. Stop right there. Let me back that up. Let me rescind that. The assets that you have as a citizen are worth $333,376. The liability on a per taxpayer basis is $1.1 million. So if you do the math, and we know that 1/3 of all the population is taxpayers, you can break that down into thirds. And essentially, we're bankrupt. The assets per citizen are equal to the liabilities per citizen. We're upside down already. the debt per citizen under the current national debt, we're not talking about future unnamed liabilities for all of these entitlement nets. We're talking about just the current $17.14 trillion we owe right now, debt per citizen. If you are born 30 seconds ago, you are born with a price tag on your head of $54,000. And a per taxpayer price tag of $150,000. So every taxpayer is responsible for $150,000. Do you have that money? Because if they make the margin call, quote unquote, you're done. I mean, the truth of the matter is, most Americans don't have a net asset value. In other words, take away the liabilities you owe, your mortgage, your car payments, your credit card debt, any money that you owe. Those are your liabilities. Calculate the assets. Okay, so you have a house, it's worth X. You have a car, it's worth Y. You have all of these assets, and you calculate the total value of those assets. You calculate the total value of the liabilities. You take the liabilities away from the assets, and you are left with your net worth. I'm going to tell you right now that 90% of America does not have $150,000 as their net worth. You're bankrupt. Don't you get it? You're bankrupt. You just haven't been declared as such by a court. We are bankrupt. Our current federal deficit is $666 billion. And we're only in October. Or November, I should say. Excuse me. The truth is, everything is so upside down. We are living in a state of absolute unmitigated tyranny. Your nation, my nation, the nation that your children and your grandchildren are going to live in is going to be nothing resembling what you knew before. And Obamacare is just one more 500-pound stone thrown onto the back of this horse. It's already swayback. It's exhausted. This will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it's designed as such. This is all about control. We're going to talk about that next. In our final segment, we're going to be talking about the DHS and the police state that is being instituted around us every single day. The monitoring, the surveillance, the theft. Do you realize that when you are tossed onto the Medicaid rolls, that all of your assets are subject to seizure at some point to pay back the government's donation to you? Most Americans have no idea. And I got to tell you, the press isn't telling you that either. If you sign up for Medicaid today and you own a piece of property, any equity that you have in that property is no longer yours. So if you are pushed from private health insurance that you either bought for yourself or you got through your employer, or you have no health insurance, and you go to the Obamacare or any of the state exchanges to sign up, the minute you sign up and you are appointed or assigned to Medicare and you get a subsidy, you're done. Your assets are no longer yours. Any equity in your home, gone. Why is Fox News, NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, why are none of them talking about it? Where's the New York Times and the investigative journalists? Where is the Wall Street Journal? Where is the Chicago Tribune? Where is the Houston Chronicle? Where are they? Nobody's telling America the real truth. This president's real signature achievement is stealing the wealth from this nation, to be squandered and distributed among his personal friends, his cronies, his supporters, his backers, and his true masters. And trust me, America, that ain't you. This is a disaster of universal proportion. This president will go down in history, if history is not rewritten by them as victors, as the one president who stood in open, undeclared treason against his own nation. You better wake up your nation. You better wake up your family. You better wake up and smell the danger. This country is finished. You got 2014 elections coming up. The Democrats who supported this are turning around and supporting and now supporting its holdover for a year. Some of them are talking repeal. You know why? Because they're trying to save their own butt. This is CYA at its best. I'm telling you that you will shortly see in America, if you don't already not recognize the one that you grew up in, you will not recognize this as the same America 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Oh, my goodness. This is going to be something that makes communist Russia, the USSR, the old Soviet republics, this is going to be something that makes early communist China, Nazi Germany, fascist Mussolini's Italy look like a walk in the park. You can swear up and down that I'm a doom and gloomer and I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. You go right ahead and do that. But I'm going to tell you something. You can mark my words on this. It ain't going to be long before one of us is proven wrong. And I'll tell you something. I am betting my future, my liberty, and my freedom to tell you this. I'll bet money that I won't be the one who's wrong. I'm putting my future, my freedom, and my liberty on the line. I'm exposing myself to the very same people that want to enslave and subjugate you. I'm willing to do that because I believe that the United States has strayed so far from the basis and the foundations which our nation was built upon that I would rather I would give up my freedom if I thought that could correct it. So if I'm willing to bet all that, and you still say, I'm just wearing a tinfoil hat and I'm a doomsayer and I'm crazy, let me ask you one question. Since I'm betting all of that, how confident are you that I'm wrong? Well, how confident are you that I'm wrong? You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael. I'll be your host for the next segment, which is going to talk about students who are sanctioned for pulling a gun on a guy who went into their apartment, a 6-time felon, still wearing a GPS bracelet from the parole department, and these two kids defended themselves with a gun, and now they're being sanctioned because they were in university-owned housing. You see, they don't want you to dial 911. They just want you to lay down and do everything the bad man tells you to do, because we're being trained and indoctrinated to be meek, mild sheep. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is all around you. If you just open your eyes, you'll see it. We'll be right back.